Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is Dorrani and Alex from VG247.com, and Alex has been playing Halo Infinite's campaign that is due to be released on December 8th. Woo! I'm jealous.
Yeah, it's great. It doesn't always happen that we get a company give us such access to a big game so early.
Yeah.
But this is the case where, I've got access to a build. It's definitely not a final build. Like
Mhm.
when you boot it on your Xbox One, it isn't even called Halo Infinite. It's got like a code name.
Code name.
But yeah, it's the campaign, and so it was great for me because I had access to this for a few days, and then the multiplayer surprise launched. So
Yeah.
I'd had a bit of time to get my Halo sea legs again. The footage you're seeing here is from early on in the game. So just to give you a bit of background to whatever, I don't know what Duran is going to lay over the top of this in terms of the video, but basically the game opens with a couple of missions before you're set loose onto the Zeta Halo ring, where the game goes into its sort of open world mode.
Yeah.
I decided I wanted to not show you guys any of that because those missions are sort of more guided, they're more on rails, they're more traditional Halo campaign levels, and I don't know, feel spoilery. So I wanted to just show generic stuff. So the things that I'm showing here are all basically side activities, things you can find and do out in the world that are unrelated to the main Halo Infinite storyline. So I won't be talking about or showing any story stuff, really. It's just me sort of tooling around in the open world. And yeah, it's
So this isn't
really
from the very,
interesting.
very start. So you didn't
So
like.
so like I say, there's a couple of missions before you're put onto the ring. So this is after those couple of intro missions. Um, you're booted out, and then the stuff you're seeing is from right after that. So
Mhm.
you'll find I'm a bit rusty in some of this footage because I was still getting used to some of the changes. One thing I kept doing is that the grappling hook is on right bumper or
Yeah.
R1, depending on how you want to think about it. Which for me, someone whose favorite Halo is the third one, that's
Mhm.
melee.
Yeah.
In Halo
So
3,
you're
so
confused.
I kept grappling enemies from a foot away because I was intending to run up to them and clock them.
Yeah.
But there's things like that that I do, which
While
are
you mention Halo 3, I would like to actually ask this question. Um, if you're, I don't know if it's too early to say, but say for example, you haven't played any of the Halo games before, is this going to be how is this Halo? Can you play it if you're new to the
I think
series?
so. I mean, story wise, it certainly seems to be steeped in the lore of
Yeah.
of Halo. So story wise, you might find yourself wanting to go and read a little bit of a catch up piece on Wikipedia and stuff like that. But as far as the rest goes, like the way it plays and all that sort of stuff, I think you can hop into this, and I think actually this it's weird, but in some way this is sort of like a back to basics game. It's sort of looking back at the first Halo and going, right, what made that game great, and how can we transplant that to a modern sensibility, thus the open world.
Yeah.
But sort of in the first moments when you step out into the world and stuff like that, there are totally Halo 1 vibes,
That's good,
which is
man.
cool, and yeah, I think let's not beat around the bush. Um, it does look not like a big next generation game. It does look like a glorified Xbox One game, and I
Mhm.
do think it's probably going to come in for some criticism for that. Some people are going to be upset with the lighting and various other things. However, it is what it is. It began
Yeah.
life as an Xbox One game. It's been delayed a lot and had a lot of development troubles. However, the thing that matters to me is how it plays. And I do think, based on what I've played so far anyway, the open world experiment is by and large working.
That's good to
And
hear.
yeah, yeah.
Is it as grand as some of the other open world games that are on the market now, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry?
I would say no, but the thing is, Halo was always big by the standards of a story-based, relatively linear shooter. And when I
Mhm.
think of Halo at its absolute best, I think of like some of the set pieces in Halo 3 and Reach where you're in quite large, big levels.
Yeah.
And moving through those zones, and you've got a degree of freedom in how you approach combat encounters and stuff
Yeah.
in those zones. But you know, it is still a linear level. So what happens then if you drop encounters like that onto a more open map? And the answer is you have these sort of handcrafted arenas almost where there's a battle. So like one of the pieces of video footage that I sent you to be put in this video was for a it's like a stronghold, I guess,
Mhm.
and
Okay.
I had to destroy the fuel cells that were on that site in order to disrupt the banished operations and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that sort of compound had all the energy of one of those and all the ticks of and all the encounter design of one of those bits of Halo 3. But the
Yeah.
difference was I could sort of back off out of that design that out of that outpost design. I could approach it from any angle I wanted from within the open world. And obviously you've then got sort of the rewards of these things where that's an optional space. But if you complete that outpost, you might discover a new vehicle which you can then
Mm.
take out to explore. When you're just sort of moving from point to point across the Zeta Halo ring, that's when it feels a little bit more like by the numbers in the sense that there's not a huge amount going on. It's
Yeah.
just like you will encounter enemy squads and stuff like that here and there for you to tackle, and little bits and bobs like that. There's storytelling, there's audio logs to find, but really the open world is sort of a wrapper through which classic Halo encounters are peppered throughout,
It's a good way of putting it.
basically.
Yeah.
And these encounters take all sorts of forms. One of the ones again that there's a bit of a video of that'll be in this video somewhere is there's high value targets, and these are assassinations. So
Ooh.
these are optional missions unrelated to the story missions, but basically you will as you unlock new areas of the map, you will receive briefings about these high-ranking members of the Banished, so high-ranking alien enemies,
Mhm.
and they've got names, they've got health bars, they take time to kill.
We love a health bar.
Bit Destiny-ish actually when you have these guys with health bars,
Yeah.
and so the one that is in this video is called Briglard, I think it is,
Mhm.
and he is basically a Covenant elite who has a special energy sword, and he's a celebrated banished, war veteran. And
Yeah.
so the idea is you can go and take him out, and when you take him out, you've then got the ability to take his weapon, which is this souped up unique energy sword.
So
And
there's
so this
loot.
is the thing. So it's like that the energy sword is a weapon you can get anywhere, obviously,
Yeah.
but the one that he has is unique. And once you've killed him, you can summon more copies of that at your forward operating bases.
Yeah.
So it's like as you take those guys out as an optional thing, your reward is going to be these unique souped up weapons with unique properties and things like that. And there's lots of this. So you can rescue groups of Marines that have been captured by the Banished, and if
Yeah.
you rescue and free a group of Marines, they will pick up weapons, arm themselves, and start following you around to help you out.
Until when? Did they until they
Well, until
die?
they die.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That feels
Yeah,
alive.
but that is Halo 1 esque, where you'd start missions with a Marine, and people would challenge themselves to keep Marines alive right to the very end of the
Yeah.
mission. And the other Halo games have had that as well, but it has felt like they've trended a bit away from that a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and it's in that where I guess the thing I'd say is if people who've played Halo, if you remember that second mission of the first Halo game, where you first land on Halo and you move forward a little bit, and then you get access to the Warthog and some Marines join you, and so on and so forth. The feeling I get broadly, it's not the same by any stretch of the imagination, but the feeling that Infinite gives me in these early hours is of that mission just expanded, blown out to be way bigger.
Yeah. I think that's a good. I think that's a good feeling to have of it feeling new but familiar.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be interesting to see how this game lands more widely with the press, because I know how I feel about it, but I do think it is that thing of it definitely does feel a little old in a
Mm,
visual sense.
yeah.
But I do, and I think elements of the non-visual stuff is probably gonna your mileage is gonna vary depending on how you feel about Halo's combat and stuff like that. How well you feel that's aged. I still
Yeah.
think that's pretty timeless. Um, so I obviously am on the positive side. But it's definitely going to come in for criticism for the visual stuff in it. But if you can look past that, I think this is a game with ideas. This is a game with a vision about what Halo can be, um, and it's sort of doing it's doing what I think is a pretty decent job that I've played so far in these early hours of threading the needle between the typical Halo campaign stuff and this new open worldy stuff. And it's almost like the open world almost exists to funnel you from one encounter to another,
Yeah.
traditional encounter and traditional zone, but also give you more routes to upgrade, customize, change the way you play. And one thing I say that's interesting is I've always been someone who's played Halo all guns blazing all the time. I'm always turned it up to 11.
Yeah.
By putting me into this open world, I am much more careful. I'm much more slow. I've sniped more
Yeah.
in this game than I have in any Halo campaign, without a shadow of a doubt. Because sometimes it makes more sense to stand back on in the mountains or use the grappling hook to get up to a nice high vantage point and then
Yeah.
shoot down and take a bunch of guys out before you go into the main base.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty cool. Is there obviously there's more traversal options now with things like the grappling hook. Is there things like up in these mountains to find? I know you mentioned there's things that can be scanned, collectibles, audio logs to be found. Is there did you manage to find anything out in the world?
So there's definitely there's there's bits and bobs. I
Yeah,
think what I've seen so far, the main stuff is you have this stuff that's marked on your map that are activities, bases to take over, and high value targets to take out. As I mentioned, the assassination missions and outposts to destroy, and all that
yeah,
sort of stuff. And then, of course, peppered in amongst all these are the places you go to trigger story missions.
yeah,
Um, and then yeah, so you've got sometimes you will hear um, a beeping that indicates that an audio log is nearby. You have a sort of ping where you can press down on the D-pad and it will send out a thing and it will highlight anything you
yeah,
can interact with in the environment. So you can use that to quickly find weapons, but you can also use that to help you track down the audio logs and stuff like that. Um, but it does feel like, at least from what I've played so far, the primary driving force is if I go and tackle this outpost mission, I'm going to unlock a new vehicle. I'm going to
yeah,
unlock a new weapon or whatever.
yeah. So I've got a few questions here now. Did you enjoy what you played?
Yeah, loved it. I am someone, I'm someone who enjoys Halo, so you've got to factor that into what I'm saying and
Yeah,
understand that I like the Halo games. But I think this is just it's exactly what I would have wanted. And when I combine this with how much I've been enjoying the multiplayer that's been released already as well, although yes, the challenge stuff and the leveling up sucks ass in that
it's
multiplayer beta,
rough.
no doubt. But just the way it plays, the multiplayer is excellent. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I can't wait to see where the story goes. And I've stopped myself from going any further until we recorded this because it's easy to not talk about stuff that you're not supposed to talk about if you don't know.
Yeah,
But now we've recorded this, I can go and play as much of it as I want.
yeah,
And I can't wait to unravel some of the mysteries and see more of what the open world's got to offer and stuff like that. But I think it's extremely promising. And yeah, the visual stuff aside, I'm just super hyped for this. The most hyped that I personally have been for a Halo game since Halo 3.
yeah. To me, Halo stopped at Halo 3. That's not to discredit any of the games that followed, but if you were to ask me personally what happened after Master Chief went to sleep in Halo 3, I couldn't tell you. From that point, up until now.
I
Um,
remember I remember Halo 4 quite vividly because
mm,
I think Halo 4 and Halo 5 have been interesting because I think Halo 4 had a great story. It might actually be one of the best story modes campaigns in the whole franchise,
ooh,
but the multiplayer sucked.
yeah,
It was this, they were chasing Call of Duty trends and stuff, and it was just ass. And then Halo 5 was the opposite way around, where they sort of butchered the campaign with this co-op design, and I don't remember anything about the story, so clearly it didn't engage me very much. But the multiplayer was pretty alright.
mm,
And so it's almost like they've led to this now, the game where they can get both
yeah,
right. But yeah, I do. For me, I've played them all, and I enjoyed Reach, and I enjoyed 4 and 5, and even Halo Wars 2 and stuff. But this, it's not the same, and this does feel like a return, for me at least, potentially a return to those sort of Halo 2, Halo 3 glory days.
yeah. That's good. It's nice that you said that you enjoyed Halo Reach because this multiplayer season on Halo Infinite is Season of the Reach. So some of the characters in there, like Emil and all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff, are in there. So you said you limited yourself from playing, right? So do you know or can you say if you go back on the rails in more of a traditional Halo style and you sort of do the open world segment and then go back into a story? So you don't know that at all, or
Some missions are more guided, I guess. But
yeah,
I can only talk here about the first 4 missions.
yeah,
And what I would say is, in those first 4 missions, there is a mix of guided stuff and open stuff.
yeah.
But the
Okay,
open world, as I said before, the open world really primarily feels like it exists to funnel you from one activity to the next
yeah,
and give you the ability to choose what you would do next.
hmm,
And that includes, so that's then like, I've just finished mission 3. You can go to mission 4, or there's like 8 other things on the map you can do instead, and you could do all of those or some of those and then go to mission 4, and so on and so forth down the line.
yeah. Because I say that because Gears 5 had the open world segment. So it's on the rails.
Yeah.
You do the straight line through the campaign, open world segment, and then you're straight back into down the normal
So
path.
put it
And
this way: once you arrive so far, once you arrive on the ring, you're on the ring, and everything's taking place on the ring.
yeah,
But at the same time, one of the missions, I literally triggered it by walking up to a point in the open world, and then it literally said on screen, "Press X to start, hold
yeah.
X to start
Ooh,
the next mission," and then obviously, then you get cutscenes and stuff gets
yeah.
moving. So, but it's not like when you think about how like Uncharted 4 as well, right? Had
Mm,
the open worldy bits where it was like you were in the was it the African savannah or something like that? I just remember it was muddy, and you
yeah.
had the Jeep in Uncharted 4, and those sections were
Yes.
sort of open. It, you could almost say that was an open world level within a linear game.
Yeah.
This is not that. The open world is the wrapper, and then there are almost smaller bite-sized missions within that world,
Yeah.
including the story missions, which are obviously the larger ones.
Yeah. You did actually mention it earlier. You glossed over it feeling a little bit like Destiny. And I think from the footage I've seen, like the world Halo Infinite takes place on, is it Zeta Halo? Zeta Halo? Is that what
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that looks like it's giving me like a Destiny planet vibe where there's little objectives dotted around and you can kind of like walk through the world, the planet, and it's alive and there's things to do. There's like little
And those
things.
worlds are, those worlds obviously Bungie's legacy runs deep. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I can see that a little bit. I don't think it feels like Destiny much moment to moment, but certainly when you fight those boss characters that actually have health bars and take a little
yeah,
bit more punishment, and they have shields and then health and stuff like that. Which enemies in Halo have always had that, but no one's ever had a large enough amount to justify a health bar.
yeah.
That's when it begins to superficially resemble Destiny a bit.
So these tougher enemies, I just wanted to just ask, they drop modified versions of your current weapons, all of the weapons that are available to you. Um, do
Well,
you
the ones that I have encountered so far have dropped modified. So there was a modified energy sword and a modified plasma pistol that
Yeah.
functions slightly differently to the normal ones.
Okay. Can you say what the different functions were?
Um, I don't want to say without double checking because I haven't written it down.
That's fine.
But it's things that will affect your, on things
Yeah.
like rate of fire, damage output, how fast they are,
Okay.
whatever. How much, how many ammo capacity, I'm sure will become a thing with that sort of stuff like that.
Yeah. I remember Gears 5 had something similar as well. They had some like modified weapons, but yeah, I'm happy with how it looks, to be honest, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it's going. I know you mentioned the graphics. Graphics are not that's not the end point for me. If I look at a game and it's not, oh my god, all of the technologies, ray tracing, da, 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 even though that is in here, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's not a big deal. It looks fun to me, and
That's
I'm
it.
excited
That's
for
it.
it.
I think some people are going to get caught up on the graphics thing, but I think if you just let it go, and I'm sure some people the open world thing's not going to be for them, but so far for me, it's working. So, um, and with that said, I'm probably going to love you and leave you and go back to playing it. To be fair,
Yeah,
and see how it keeps vibing with me. But this is obviously the preview stage. At a point in the future, at an unspecified point in the future, mainly unspecified because I'm not sure if I could specify when that is. But at some point in the future, there will obviously be a review phase as well,
yeah.
and we will get back together to talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, I would have played some by then as well. But yeah, you can go off and go back to playing Halo Infinite's campaign. We have been Dorrani and Alex from VG247.com. Make sure you check out the website. Peace out, everyone.
Laters.